Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills, as always, and joined with me today is Sam Williams.
Greetings, Thomas. What a warm morning it is.
It is. We're sat outside Jar HQ in the sun, and we've had a weekend of golf. Well, you've had a weekend of golf. I had a weekend of being ill.
I played Saturday. Yeah, I played Saturday. I also had a lovely trip up to Royal Liverpool, which isn't going to feature in this pod, but I've had a nice couple of days golf. It's like the courses are all great at the moment because of the weather we're enjoying. So for anyone not in the UK, we're in I would say an unseasonably spell of warm and dry weather. Even though it's the peak of summer. Yeah, August is usually a really wet month over here as well, in my experience.
Well, we usually get a lot of... I mean, this isn't a weather podcast, but we usually get a lot of rain at some point in the summer, and I genuinely don't think we've had any rain since... Well, anyone who's watched the Open probably could tell we haven't had much rain, but...
Shout out to our sponsor, by the way, the Met Office.
The Met Office are an official sponsor.
In partnership with...
Actually, I've got some better apps than the Met Office on my phone. It's funny it's funny how you get attached to weather apps, isn't it?
Yeah, I quite like the satellite one because I think doing more of what we do, you need to see something with cloud cover and you need to see stuff with precipitation that's better. The iPhone... Apparently, it's like one of these real things that goes around, things you never knew type garbage.
BBC is just really...
When you look at your iPhone and it says 30% rain, it doesn't mean there is a 30% chance of rain. It means that area, 30% will experience rain. I still think it means the same thing.
I think it means 30... If 100% rain was the maximum it could rain on you, you're going to get 30% of that. It's the amount of rain, I think.
It's so bizarre. But one you will notice, if you use the iPhone, it will always show you clouds and rain. It very rarely rains when there is no cloud or rain on there.
We both use an app called Weather Radar.
Completely gone down a rabbit hole on this, but yeah. The high-level message to take away from it is the courses are firm, they're fast, they're brown. And they're playing brilliantly, so it's great to get out on the road, Tom, and see a few places. And the reason for this podcast is, of course, a Course Diaries episode from Delamere Forest,
which you went to.
I wanted to go back for a while.
Did you play there when you were very young?
I've played it quite a few times. Not when I was very young, when I was sort of medium young. So probably in my sort of early to mid 20s, did quite a few trips up there. Pal living in Manchester, just went and spent quite a bit of time. Typically played it in the winter for whatever reason, and
it's a good winter course though.
Well, that was actually the reason why I wanted to go back anyway. But when we did a poll, I think recently on social media, I was like, "Where's the best inland golf course for winter golf?" And I mean, to a man, that and perhaps Ganton, which I've not been to. Came well out on top. It's like it's really well thought of, and it's just great land. I mean, it's Heathland, Fowler. It's just kind of off junction 19 on the M6, so you're sort of talking to the west of Manchester. No, I think it's important. It's in that sort of Cheshire area, which is not blessed with stacks of great golf.
I disagree slightly. I mean, I think for that reason, it's not far from those northwest golf courses, which is really blessed with great golf. So I think for that reason, Delamere probably flies a little bit under the radar for what it is, and it's inland, of course, which everyone's got this stigma that inland courses are going to be not as good as links courses. But yeah, I mean, we've done it before. You and I have done it before as a stop off to the northwest, but it's not like halfway or wherever. It's nearly all the way to the northwest, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a perfect one to break the drive up. It's a great place. It's actually a really nice part of the world. So Delamere Forest is sort of like an old sort of King's hunting sort of forest. That's actually where some of the stuff with the logo comes from, with the horn there. It's a wonderful place. So the actual site itself is kind of buried within, the actual forest itself. It's not particularly tree lined. It's not like completely overgrown, but you are kind of cocooned in an area, so you feel totally isolated from all the roads, anything going on around there. You are completely and utterly removed, apart from maybe 2 drives that you can see, kind of electricity pylons in the very, very long distance over on the horizon. You almost wouldn't know where on earth you are. It's quite a special
the
place.
Pylons give it away.
Well, no. You wouldn't know. Sorry, you wouldn't know that you're around where
civilization.
Yeah, you wouldn't know you're around by civilization, I guess. So there's a brilliant feeling of escapism, which is pretty hard to achieve with inland golf, particularly when you think you're probably 30 minutes from Manchester and about 40 minutes from Liverpool. So yeah, for that reason, it's very cool. So I mean, the whole round came about. Been messaging someone on social media. Big shout out to Harry. Who was kind of keen to get a game in. He actually couldn't make Saturday and instead sort of teed us up with Donald, chairman of Greens at Delamere Forest. What a great bloke as well. And had a wonderful day, absolutely wonderful day. So, yeah, quite excited to talk about the course, I guess.
So, Fowler's an architect, which is fairly close to our hearts. Our own dear Blackwell is Fowler and Simpson combined, although I do dare say that it's more attributed to Simpson than it is to Fowler. But do you see any resemblance in some of the architectural themes between here and Blackwell? Or between Blackwell, sorry, and Delamere?
Honestly, no.
Does it resemble the Berkshire maybe a little bit?
Yeah. So, I think it's easy when you know something like that to say, oh yeah, I can definitely tell that Fowler's got his fingerprints on this. I wouldn't profess to be.
So if someone landed you there, you wouldn't be going, "Oh my God, this is a Fowler."
No, I'd probably like to say that's the case for the benefit of our listeners. But the honest answer is, I think when you know that, you're probably looking for the same stuff. So if you look at the Berkshire, particularly the red course, what have you got? Tons of elevation change, brilliant par threes, stunning green sites, very natural flow to the course. That's it's a hallmark of Fowler, but it's also a hallmark of a lot of the other Golden Age architects. So, Delamere's designed 1910. Fowler, obviously of Walton Heath fame, had already designed that. Was decided upon to be the principal architect for Delamere Forest, and the course, from what I understand, was open to rave reviews. The really defining thing here with Delamere is the pretty crazy land it's got. So there's a huge amount of elevation change as you go your way through. So Fowler, one of his kind of key points was that the key principles rather was that you should start you should be able to start both nines situated right by the clubhouse. He actually had 5 principles. I haven't got them to hand, but it was things like that, and he actually conceded that the whole course fell short on I think 4 out of 5 of those. But yeah, you start from the first tee just orientated off to the right of the clubhouse as you look out, and the 10th just off to the left, and you've got the coolest terrace, which kind of looks out onto this little volcano 9th green, which is a wonderful golf hole. It's a really, really great drinking terrace. It's the OMT.
From memory, I mean, so I'm going back, I think probably 5 years since I last played it, and pre the golfing information renaissance that my world has gone through. But near that drinking terrace, they've put the first tee back. Like there's a monster tee back there. Now that probably strikes me as something that's happened later in life.
I don't think they use it a fat lot. So there's the blue tees, which is like, that's the absolute tips. They play from the greens is like their medal tee. The blue tee on the first has got to be 70 or 80 yards longer.
It's by the drinking terrace, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's right off to the right. The 10th they play typically from their back tee anyway, which is just off to the left of the terrace. So they're both both holes that take you away. I don't think it really matters. If you got to Delamere and they were like, guys, 4 ball, you're going off the 10th when you get here, it's not an issue, right? Both nines, it doesn't really matter what order you play them in. They both have strong finishers. They both take you away from the clubhouse. They both lead you to some magical parts of the course.
Isn't that first hole a par 4 and the second a par 5, and they're pretty much... I think the first one might be longer.
That is a brilliant segue, Tom, because one of the things I was going to say is I knew I was going to get on with Donald as we walked off the second tee. He said to me, the thing is, the first is an incredibly long par 4 and the second's an incredibly short par 4. So really they're both 4.5s. He was like, they're both basically both.
Yeah, second's a par 5, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. But he said like they're both basically par 4.5. So I was like, okay, right, we're talking half par currency here.
Nice.
This is nice. So yeah, you kind of one takes you right up to the far right as you go along. You know, kind of rolling hills that kind of go up and down a little bit, and then 2 sort of turns at 90 degrees left, and you play this quite short par 5 where you drive down into a sort of, you know, again some dips in the fairway, and you play up to a lovely green site that's got some trees sort of behind the green. Are very reachable for the medium to long hitter. And it's just steady, like it just steadily improves. There's really not many weak holes at Delamere. There are some real good bangers, but it's not a course that's defined by half a dozen epic holes and a dozen, you know, quite benign ones. Everything's got something of huge interest. So I think the thing that hit me pretty hard was the third green. So you may be looking out for this stuff a little bit more when you're visiting and you try and take a keener interest in course design. But the third green, and you think, well, one thing I, you know, was hoping for but didn't think was necessarily the case, the routing that Fowler left, I think he revisited a couple of times in subsequent years from 1910. The routing's not changed, so the green sites are pretty much there. I think 8's been tweaked a touch from what I gather, but not much. The green sites are pretty original. Have barely been moved, and the routing exactly the same. And you look at this green site on 3, which is a sort of medium length par 4 that sort of folds downhill slightly and a little bit to the right, but it's perched on this piece of land which makes it a complete infinity green as you play into it. And there's quite a few of those. That theme sort of repeats itself. So when you asked me earlier, is there similarities with the Berkshire? I think the red course in particular does have a few infinity greens where you play up to and you have that kind of sheer drop off behind, and all you can see is sky with the pin poking up. And it's a pretty great feature. You've got them on holes like 10. There's quite a few 17 that you play. These wonderful little infinity greens. 9 would be another, really. Yeah, class. I just appreciate it.
Would you say that's a standout feature of the golf course?
Yeah, I think that the terrain and the terrain, and I think some of there's definitely a few really good infinity greens which, you know, when you spot them, they stand out, and they are a lovely feature to look at. The terrain's pretty magical. It's quite a natural course. So myself and Donald talked about it quite a bit on the way around. You've always got that sort of expectation, second week of April, Augusta, it should be absolutely pure with a Y, you know, it's got to be absolutely slick. But, you know, Fowler was very much it was very much kind of about natural landscape. And then just the whole thing with the terrain is it's quite raw land. It's not manicured land. So you're unlikely to get it to maybe the same sort of finesse of some of the Surrey Heathlands that are really manicured and stuff. It has some of that maybe more Woodhall Spa vibes, I'd almost say, in so much as, you know, quite very natural looking bunkers. As I say, I think, yeah, it's not manicured would be the best way I could explain it. And that's a good thing. It feels really natural.
Is it a lot? What were we looking at? Is it a long course? What par is it?
Well, it's deceptively short.
I would say. What do you mean? Does that mean you didn't score very well?
No. It's deceptively short. So it's actually only, I think, 6,300 yards off the greens. Tees that I would recommend playing for the 99% of players. Really, walk that back. I'd probably recommend for, you know, your sort of single figure handicap. There's no need to go back to the blue. I looked at them. I mean, they've installed a new one on 18, which is just crazy back, and it's like it sticks another 45 degrees onto the angle of the dogleg, and we'll talk more about that later, maybe. But
let's talk about it now.
Well, 18 as a whole, for example, is a really neat par 5 that sort of bends doglegs right and goes back underneath this clubhouse. So twice you come back into the clubhouse. The 9th green is perched up above the 18th green, and all you can see is the terrace and this wonderful clubhouse where everyone's outside drinking. It's brilliant. But they've installed a blue tee, which is sort of probably another sort of 50, 60 yards back. It's a par 5 playing about 480 or so off the green, so 530. But rather than having maybe a sort of 45-degree oblique angle, you've got a sort of a 90-degree bend from the blues. It's tougher. It's a lot tougher. But you're not going to. Most golfers are going to struggle to get home in 2 from there. So, the green's good because it seems to expose more half-par holes, makes things a little bit more reachable. But you're not going forward to the yellows, and you're not bringing it too short. So, 6,300 off those greens. The reason I say it's deceptively short is because of the terrain. It feels like a much bigger walk, even though it's quite compact. You're not walking long distance between green and tee.
A lot of undulation.
Yeah, tons. Just crazy amounts of it. Like every... I've got to challenge myself here. Is there a really flat hole on Delamere? And I'm not sure there really is.
Maybe one?
Nah, that's huge. Huge rolling hills.
Is it?
Yeah. You go through at least 2 quite significant dips of 20
but
feet.
The whole plays flat, doesn't it? But there is, I understand.
Well, from green to tee, but that's the whole thing. It's like rolling. You're not ascending hills and you're not descending hills. But what's happening is you're playing maybe to a similar point of height, but you're encountering huge elevation change on the ground as you get there. So, that allows you to, particularly when you're playing in the summer, you can move it along the ground a little bit, and it's great. But does
that put you in spots like where you maybe you're driving into places that you shouldn't, you can't see the green and stuff, and you've got to be a bit more strategic about the way you think about
definitely. It that's where it's like quite subtle. So you sort of playing to little bits of, there's certain holes where you really want to be on the right side of the fairway. Great example, 14, probably one of my favourite holes there, is this mid-length par 4. And you drive away. It's not a blind drive, but if you're hitting driver or longer club, it's going to crest the summit and it's going to roll away out of sight. Now there's like another dell that falls off the fairway that's kind of situated on the right side of the hole into a sort of a it's a mown rough area, but it's like a big dell. It's just a much tougher approach shot. It's partially blind. You're encountering more bunkers to cross before you get to the green. If you get it on the right, you're on slightly higher ground, and you get a view of this it's absolutely stunning green site. It plays right into the corner. Beautiful bunkering. Green's perched there with the 15th tee just sat up above it. It really is a magical golf hole. You've got heather bordering the holes. It's great, but that's a class example where you really want to favour the right hand side of that fairway, but you only realise it in retrospect if you've played it once or twice.
Yeah. Which I think that goes for a lot of these golden age architect designs, is that there is right and wrong places to play these things from. But for the majority of us golfers, it's just about find the fairway and hope you can do something with it, isn't it? It's like, how did you score around there? Did you rip it apart?
I didn't. So
this is what we all
I came
know.
off the back of quite a good day at Hoylake.
Oh, let's do it. I've had this breakdown, which I really think I'll listen.
No. I played well at Hoylake, and then I got to the first tee, and I literally all I could see was golf hole. I was like, I'm gonna bring Delamere Forest to my knees here. I thought I'm just gonna absolutely, if I can keep Thursday going, we're in business, because it's scoreable. You can
Are the
get
green
on a
size
run.
large?
Yeah, reasonably.
Okay, that's good.
It's a gettable golf course. It's not unnecessarily penal. There are areas of rough that are thicker than others. There are places you don't want to visit for sure, but you're not teeing off. The thing is, it's quite a big piece of land.
You're in that go. Where's the first tee? What's the course record?
Yeah. What's the course record today, Donald? Okay, cool. We're going to go for that. So, the first at Delamere is like out of bounds down the right. But when I say out of bounds down the right, it's 50, 60 yards away from the hole. Everything has a lot of space there. To go out of bounds right off the first is, it's a crime.
And shout out to all the members that have seen out of bounds on that hole. Well done, you guys, because apparently you deserve to be in prison.
It's absolutely... It should not be the case. I think I just tried to absolutely wail on the first tee shot and left the face about 30 degrees open.
Oh, did you go out of bounds?
Yeah.
Oh, well done, you.
It hit like a 60-yard block. Donald was really encouraging. First shot he's seen me hit, and he was like, well, it might be okay there. Let's pop another one down. I sort of hoofed another one up there, and then I said, "Don't worry about it. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone." I think the thing was still going up over the boundary.
Oh, well done you! I thought you were just. I thought you were just saying like it's not in play.
No.
Oh, that's a.
But you don't get into too many places. What I will say is, I hit a few shots that I thought absolute crackerjacks. Like, because there are a few blind holes. 11 being a really good example. Great par 5 again. Huge rolling terrain. Heather, natural bunkers, you get the gist of this by now. I mean, nice drive just up the right side of the fairway, just in the first cut, whatever. The second shot, if you go for that green at Delamere on the 11th, which is about a 500-yard par 5, it kind of, you reach the summit and then the ground just gives way and it all falls down to the green and it feeds. And there's a couple of bunkers that kind of, that are sort of staggered on their way in. But really the play is like, knock it up the right, let the ground feed it in. I've played it before, so whereas before, if I hadn't have played it at all, I would have gone up to the top and got a line. I've stood down there and thought, I'm fairly confident you keep it on roughly that line. It's 5 years since I played the bloody golf course, and I've absolutely nutted an iron. I've thought, that's absolutely perfect, never to be seen again. There are elements where you have blind shots and you do have to think about that. I do think that's good fun.
I think that with the blind shots, you mentioned holes that there's sort of kind of a tee shot where you can hit it up to where you can see, or if you hit it a bit further it goes over the crest and disappears. I'm thinking maybe something like, I think it's the 6th hole at Ely, maybe something similar where it disappears over the crest. There's a lot in golf to be said for hitting where you can see. Certainly if you've got blind in play, is to just, like, I think it was really clever architecture at the time that you can just dial back, hit to where you can see, and you'll have a shot in. But I think there's so much temptation just to.
I hate it when people say it's a course you have to know, but I think there are elements to Delamere where you are at an advantage if you know how the ball runs on the ground and behaves, particularly when it's this firm and fast. I don't mind blind shots though. I really don't mind them at all. People say they are unfair.
Huge one for
recent guest of our pod said they're equally unfair. They're unfair for everyone. That makes them fair in some respects. I think there's some truth in that.
Well, a course is very near and dear to both of us. Silloth has got blind approaches. Well, no, near and dear to our hearts. Not near and geographically, it's bloody miles away. But it's got blind approaches. You don't see many. It's got many blind approaches, and you don't see that often, because the thing with blind tee shots, the architect knows exactly where you're going to be and can point you in a direction, so you all need to hit roughly in that direction. Whereas blind approaches, it's like there's one at Rye that's very cleverly put together with the 2 markers you need to line up. They don't have that sort of, but it's kind of like blind approaches are very difficult because you don't know where you're going to be hitting your shot from.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference, isn't there, in the 5th at Prestwick and the tee shot on the 15th at Delamere. 15 is a shortish par 4, doglegs left, you hit over the corner, you hit over this sort of crest of a fairway into a sort of blind area, but you're going to see the green for your approach shot. You play the 5th at Prestwick and it's a leap of faith, and I think there's a difference there. I really enjoyed it. Quite interesting talking about the work they've done there. So, we're probably going back 6 or 7 years.
When I played there, they were digging up a huge section of the course along the side of the course that was furthest away from the clubhouse. So I don't know. But
you're on about the 15th there.
Is that, yeah, and they were digging...
The hole that alternates between a par 4 and a par 3. Sometimes in winter they use it as a par 3.
Yeah, see, I don't know, because the whole thing was out of action.
They were digging
up a whole section.
Yeah, they were taking the scalped some of the earth off the top of that drive, so it's slightly the saddle that you drive over is a little lower. I think it's the Marmite hole of the golf course. Some people don't like it. It's the awkward bit of the property, for want of an American term. It's an awkward little piece. You get to this no-brainer 14th green, like it's got to be there. It's a great golf hole. Like I said, for me, it's probably that and 9 is probably my favourite holes there. But then you've got to get out of that corner somehow, and you've got to get back to the golf, and it takes you up to then the higher point over where the sort of middle of the front 9 comes around about 5. You play the par 3 6th. So you hit this little dog leg.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
And there's a piece of land which the club don't own, which is a forest which has dense trees. And that's that point around this cocoon of forest all around you. So, this smart play is probably 160 to 180 to the middle, to the right or so. But the centreline bunker's been kind of enlarged. It's quite a big hazard. You get a glimpse of that when you stood on the 6th and the 7th. You see it, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's there. But they've like lowered the saddle. It was quite extreme before, and I think, as I say, in winter months, because it all sort of collects down into the bottom. They sometimes play it as a par 3, where you walk up to almost the back of the 7th tee and you play a tee shot to this green. Wonderful green. So I personally quite like the golf hole, but.
Is it one of those ones if you can't hit the ball far enough, it's a bit of a pickle?
No, I would say you it's one where you need to know a fair distance actually. So I had 313, I think, to the pin, which was never. So I thought, well, that's out of the question.
Is it uphill? Is that
kind of? But you got to kind of hook it round a corner as well. So I thought I'll just hit a 2 iron and smash 2 iron kind of out the back foot. Just punched one sort of up there. In retrospect, it was probably a smidge more club because you actually run over and into some heavy stuff, and there's a creek beyond the other side of the fairway on the dog leg. So, the sensible play would have probably been hit less club. But that's blind shot, so that's golf, isn't it? And that's the, if that ruins your day because you've hit a ball over a blind shot and you've never to be seen it again, hit less club.
Yeah.
Go and do your due diligence. Don't moan about it. So, I like it. It's a cool golf hole, actually.
So what's your advice to people visiting?
Well, I would definitely not look past playing in the winter. I mean, the amazing thing with Delamere is that it's an incredibly good value golf course. I think you can play there for around £90 or so in peak season. I think winter rates kick in. It's like a little less, maybe £60 or £70, whatever. I don't know those, so don't quote me on these numbers. It's a brilliant winter golf course, so play at any time of the year would be a strong recommendation.
And I think that whole section is really good in the winter, isn't it? I mean, Links Golf's always good in the winter, and you can go do a northwest trip. Certainly, if you're coming from the south or south of the northwest, and break it up with Delamere, it's like just a perfect little bolt-on, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I would make it part of a trip, and I would dismiss it at your absolute peril. It's an outstanding inland golf course. It's one of those weird ones. If it was in Surrey, it would be talked about with, I think, much more aplomb. It's in a part of the world where it's not a particularly golf-rich area, I don't think. Certainly when you compare it to the Surrey Heathlands or the Northwest Coast or whatever. But yeah, a recommendation out and out would be to go. I don't think there's any hidden tricks. Like, they've done some really good stuff. So like I say, Tom McKenzie did this, huge restoration program probably sort of 8 years ago. So I think that finished. Donald's been involved in the Greens Committee there for quite a while, and he's a good guy. Like, he's really knowledgeable. He is the antithesis of a lot of what we've talked about on the pod before with people like Mike Clayton. People on Greens committees who have vanity projects, lack of understanding, seem to think their role is to hold the greenkeeper to account. He made some really good points. He was like, my job is not to tell the greenkeepers how to operate this stuff. My job is to understand how they work and how I can help them and give them the air cover with the membership. And I thought, God, do you know what? If more golf clubs did that, there'd be so much better understanding. He was really interested in the grass type and the ground.
Do we know the grass? Is that a really question?
The honest answer is it is the fine grasses. It does play running. Obviously it plays well in the winter, so it's not heavy. But they are bringing in some irrigation. They don't have automated irrigation. That's going to be like a big thing for them, I think, over the next 12 months. A big investment. They've done loads on heather regeneration. So, again, one of the things he's led has been some of the tree thinning and tree removal, which has had two kind of big benefits there. So, I think it's John Nicholson who's done the tree work there, who does a lot of the tree work and consulting with clubs around the country. One, it removes some of the organic matter from nearer the playing surfaces. That means heather grows. Didn't know that really in that level of detail, but they're able to generate more heather now alongside the holes, looks great, particularly this time of year. I think the other thing then is it really opens up the sky. So it's back to that point with the infinity greens. Holes like 10, there was a lot more trees surrounding them. The approach is to holes like 8, there's loads more trees around, it feels more claustrophobic. So you get more air, you get more wind, you get more light into the green surface. But also, when you're playing into those beautiful sort of Fowler infinity greens, the sky opens up behind them. So it's kind of like maybe what I saw at the Addington when they did some of that tree removal. So it was really cool. Yeah, highly enjoyable. And there's a few other bits. So you asked for some tips. When you get to the 8th tee and you're playing Delamere, look at the back of the tee box. There's a little plaque there. For I'm gonna butcher this because I haven't got the name to hand. So, gentleman who's made a hole in one way back when. The hole is 420 yards. This would have been back in the days of the small ball, or the marble, as Ronan Rafferty used to refer to it. I can imagine the fairways were scorched and he had wind with, but it's some bloody story.
Yeah, that's amazing. What, 420 hole in one par 4?
Yeah, a little plaque there. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Have you had a hole in one yet?
No.
No, not me.
Insane.
Just going to keep going. It's going to keep
it's
get that
so
running
far.
For a while,
like you look at it. I mean, I hit a reasonable drive and I didn't cover the carry on the left. And that's got to be like 216. You're like, how the hell's this guy got it there? Yeah, it's insane. Apparently the guy had arms like tree trunks. You know, he was an absolute mutant. But
I'm sure he's got bigger over time as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, let the truth get in the way of a good story. I can imagine I think he was 10 foot tall.
Oh, well, I'm very gutted that I was unable to attend. I came down with symptomatic food poisoning as opposed to asymptomatic food poisoning he's had in the past. But
yeah, you missed a great day. It would be nice to go and spend more time there, I think. And I think that some of these holes would look so good with the drone. They would look, from the air. That it's just. I would say that the Berkshire Red is really the only near comparison I can probably offer to Delamere, in so much as variety of hole types, elevation change, drama, and I think it's the type of golf we really like.
Yeah, I mean that's quite the accolade, because the Berkshire Red is just an outrageously
it's an amazing golf course. Amazing. Yeah, that's maybe one where being in that sort of London catchment and the expectations of golf in those parts means it is it is more manicured. It feels more like it's cultivated to create.
Yeah, well, there's more money.
A
there,
look, yeah,
there's more money, and ultimately more money is.
But don't take that as being the takeaway from this is that Delamere is scruffy. That's not what I'm saying. It's more natural look to the holes. The greens were pure. Courses in superb condition. Had a great time there. Look, go spend some time on that terrace for sure. Like, it's amazing. I haven't even touched on the 9th, but an all-world short par 4 played in front of that terrace. With kind of this little hogsback fairway.
Is that the one that's down the hill?
Yeah, and the fairway that you play to, it's like a turtleback, so it sort of falls off front, long, right and left. So you've really got to hit your number to this little spine of fairway, and you're left with, it's really a flick wedge really for most players, I think, to this little volcano green. It's a beautiful golf hole. If you don't strike those 2 shots well, you're snookered.
Well, a flick wedge for you brings in the dreaded thin. And if there's a patio out the back,
luckily I hit flat hook with a 6 iron and then had to gouge 9 iron onto the green, I think, so it was okay. Yeah, great fun. Nice to also get back to just talking a little bit about golf courses and going and seeing some places. So I think more of that to come. Yeah,
we've got some more on our travels to come soon. We're going to try and bring you some more of these course diaries and places we visit. But
when was the last course diaries?
Pass. It was a while ago. We were up in St Andrews for a long time. That was a big commitment, and I really don't know when the last one was.
I think we need to get back to doing more course diaries.
We need to travel some more. We don't travel enough. That's our problem. We don't travel enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to take the listener there on a golf course. I think it is tricky without kind of just leaning on the same shit.
It's nice to whet the appetite. I know that we're in a fortunate position. We're able to go to some of these places, and hopefully we try and highlight some of the lesser known places, or certainly lesser travel places. So we're going to don't get me wrong, we like to go to the well-travelled places as well.
We're
But
going Church Stretton on Thursday, I think.
Church Stratton on Thursday.
That's going to be so sick.
We're looking forward to that. And there's so much golf around there in the whole place. Like there's Kington and Minchinhampton. There's an area of England that's particularly forgotten, I think.
I think so. I suppose if there's an ask of the listener to this podcast, apart from shouting our partners at the Met Office that we did early doors, I think course diaries, we need to start building a backlog. We need to get like Tech 101 product management on this. We need to get a backlog of course diaries that we're going to try and get through, because I think there's so many great places I want to go and see, and it's a great way, certainly for us, I think, to document those experiences.
Yeah,
so
just get in touch, and if you guys are keen to get us anywhere near your golf course, just get in touch and we'll see what we can do. But if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure that if you could comment or just drop us a review on iTunes, that would be very much appreciated, because all those things tend to help us and do all those bits and bobs. But thank you very much for listening to Sam ramble on about Delamere, and I hope it's whet your appetite for the golf club, and until next time.
Adios.
Watch this.